The Auto Glym Polar Collection. Is this the ultimate DIY car cleaning solution? Starting with Polar Blast Snow Foam. This dense, long-lasting foam breaks down surface dirt and grime. Followed by Polar Wash, a highly effective surface cleaner. And finished with Polar Seal, a long-lasting protective hydrophobic sealant. So, welcome to Big Ted's Home and Garden. In today's video we're going to be looking at the Auto Glym Polar Collection. The Polar Collection contains 3 products: Polar Blast, Polar Wash and Polar Seal. These 3 products are designed to be used together, but you can obviously buy them independently. This collection does, however, offer a relatively low-cost way of trying out each of the 3 products. It's also attractively packaged and would make a nice Christmas or birthday present. When we unpack the collection, we find we've got 3 500ml bottles. The first stage will be to use the Polar Blast Snow Foam. This should create a thick, clinging blanket of foam on the car, which breaks down any surface grime. The second stage will be the Polar Wash shampoo, and then that will be followed by the Polar Seal sealant, which should give us a hydrophobic coating on the car. Auto Glym recommend that all 3 products are applied using a foam cannon and pressure washer. So for this trial we'll be using a Karcher K4 and an mjjc Pro foam cannon. You can find separate reviews of both of these products on Big Ted's Home and Garden if you're interested in them. We're going to test the Polar Collection on 2 cars, a black Ford Fiesta and a silver Audi A4, because both of them could do with a wash. So the first stage is the Polar Blast Snow Foam. Recommended mix ratio is 100ml of snow foam solution to 500ml of water, so that's what I used. If you prefer a thinner foam, you can obviously increase the amount of water that you use, but using the recommended mix ratio, you can see that we've got a nice thick foam sprayed on easily and covered the car well. The job of snow foam is to break down any surface film and grime, and normally it takes several minutes to do this, so you obviously need something that's going to stick around and isn't going to run straight off the car. And you can see that the Polar Blast gives a nice thick coating and it's well adhered to the car. I then applied the snow foam to the Fiesta straight after, and if we switch back to the Audi, you can see that the foam's still nice and thick. You don't find this with all snow foams. With some of them that I've tested, you actually find that most of it's run off after a few minutes, but this is still well adhered. It's good stuff. One key feature of the Polar Blast is that it's pH neutral, so it shouldn't damage any waxes or other coatings that you've got on your car. So after leaving the foam for a few minutes to do its magic, it was time to wash it off. For that we use the Karcher K4. Again, it just washes off easily. The key to it is don't leave it on for too long. If it dries, it can be a hell of a job getting it off. Once you finish rinsing the car, the second stage is to apply the Polar Wash. The instructions for this were not as clear, except don't use more than a 50-50 ratio. So what I did, I used the same mix ratio, so I used 100ml of Polar Wash to 500ml of water. Once again, you can see it applies easily and gives a good coating, though it's nowhere near as thick as the Polar Blast was. If I zoom in after finishing the car, you can see although it's thinner and less viscous than the Polar Blast, it is adhering well to the car. It has coated it really well. Once you've applied the Polar Wash, you then need to agitate it using either a microfiber cloth or, in this case, a microfiber mitt. The Polar Blast and the pressure washer should have removed any large contaminants, so you should be safe to use this without damaging your paintwork. Once you've rubbed down the whole car, you then need to wash it off before it dries. The third and final stage is the protective Polar Seal. The recommended mix ratio for this product is a maximum of 40ml of product with 200ml of water. Auto Glym claim that should be enough to cover an entire car. Obviously I was doing 2, so I doubled up. You can see when we spray this on, it's much thinner, but then it's designed to be. Now the beauty of this product is that it's so easy to apply. Being able to apply it using the foam cannon and the pressure washer makes things much quicker, especially when compared to other protective coatings which you have to apply by hand. Once you've covered the whole car, you just rinse it off again. And then dry using a microfiber cloth. Both cars look great afterwards. If I zoom in, you can see how good the finish is on the Fiesta. You can literally see a reflection in it. Now this video was shot in the northwest of England in November, so I didn't have to wait long to test out the protective coating. And you can see how the water's beaded up on top of the Audi. Very impressive. Auto Glym claimed that the protection lasts for up to 4 weeks. And conveniently, it's taken me about 4 weeks to get round to compiling this video, and I am still getting beading on my car. So what are my initial impressions of the Auto Glym Polar collection? I'm quite impressed, to be honest with you. At the recommended mix ratio, the Polar Blast creates a good thick foam. I've heard some people complain that it's too thick, but then to be able to do its job, the foam's got to stick to the car. The Polar Wash adhered well and again left the car looking great afterwards. And the Polar Seal was really easy to apply and so far has stood up well to the weather. So, are there any downsides? There are a couple. Although the kit's relatively cheap for what you get, you do only get 500 millilitres of each product and you do use them at different rates. So for example, you will use the Polar Blast and the Polar Wash much quicker than you will use the Polar Seal, for example, because you're only using 40 millilitres for each car with that product. So you'll soon have to buy new supplies of the Polar Blast and the Polar Wash. But then the whole point of this package is to allow you to be able to try out these products in small quantities. A second, and in my opinion a more important issue here, is the relative cost of the Auto Glym products. Other snow foams, for example, which can be used in the same ratio as the Polar Blast, can be bought for much lower prices than the normal Auto Glym price. There are, however, often special offers on Auto Glym products on Amazon, so keep your eyes open. This collection, for example, is currently on offer on Amazon, and I think it represents fairly good value for money. That's £18 for the 3 products. It's certainly a good way of trying them out without having to buy 2.5 litres of each one. All 3 products are good, and I'd certainly consider buying them if I can get them at the right price. Out of the 3 though, I think if I'm going to use any of them regularly, it'll be the Polar Seal. It was really easy to apply, and the protection it provided lasted for weeks. So I hope you found this useful. If you have, leave a thumbs up. Any questions, leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to Big Ted's Home and Garden. I'll see you soon.